Because the currents of the force of the Earth are in constant change, the following can be at most subjective knowledge. But in the snowflake, we have an example of both the casting and the mould of discordant negative power or neg force currents. But it must be borne in mind that where one snowflake is moulded in one moment, another snowflake moulded in the same place the next moment, and so on, you would display no two snowflakes alike. 3 stages may be described in the discordant results. First the cloud, second the frozen cloud, which is snow, and the third the raindrop or hailstone. In the higher atmospheric regions, which are above such clouds as produce rain, physical substance also presents 3 stages of development, which are ash clouds, transparent or otherwise, crystalline needles, and meteorites. Meteorites are the only things, as a general rule, precipitated to the Earth, but on occasions the 2 other forms of physical substance are also precipitated. Allowing a certain size to rain clouds, which are next to the Earth, vortexian currents of the force are like huge clouds high up. They are proportionally larger according to the ratio of the difference between their globular circumference and that of the lower strata. So also are the discordant waves proportionally longer, wider, and deeper. It is an error to say that the atmosphere of the Earth decreases gradually and continually in specific gravity according to the distance above the Earth. It is an error to say that there is any gravity at all, except only that it precipitates formations like rain, snow, hail, and meteorites. As before shown, these things have no gravity of their own to go in any direction, nor is there any attraction in the Earth to pull them down. They are driven to the Earth by the force and the currents of the force. But the point here now considered is the commonly expressed knowledge of man and science that the sphere has less density outward away from the Earth in proportion to the distance from the Earth's surface. In one respect this is an error, in another a truth. As to density per se, there is no difference in the atmosphere on the face of the Earth compared to that of 1,000 miles high or 100,000 miles high. It is all an even balance as to pressure and density per se. But because the etheric solution of physical substance is more sublimated by swifter axial motion in the higher regions, and because the lower regions contain less perfectly dissolved physical substance, the difference has been improperly described. Air is no heavier because of rain, the weight less for rain only. Hence, the gravity, so called, of the atmosphere has reference only to imperfect solutions of physical substance. And it is true that a superabundance of these imperfect solutions are near the Earth. At the sea level, a certain pressure seems to manifest, as in a barometer on a high mountain, a less pressure seems to manifest. There is also a variation in the barometer according to certain conditions of the atmosphere. The difference is not that the pressure of the atmosphere is different. The pressure of the atmosphere per se is the same in all directions, high and low. The cause of the variation of the barometer is in a reference to distension, which is sublimated solution of physical substances. it has no reference to pressure as such. This capacity to distension is not only external to the barometer, but within it also, so that as a measure of atmospheric pressure per se, it is worthless. The suction pump or inverted tube filled with water shows the pressure of the atmosphere upward as well as downward, and shows what the pressure is. Wherefore, it is shown that there is no such thing as attraction of gravitation of the atmosphere toward the earth more than away from it. Where the atmosphere is overcharged with an imperfect solution of physical substance, or rain or snow, that excess is what balances towards the earth. But this also only applies in regions close to the earth's surface, as well as 50 or 100,000 miles up, the axial velocity of the force and the vortex of the force is so great that rain or snow would be instantly dissolved, distended, and lost to sight. In the Earth's early age, the force's outer rim turned so rapidly that border eddies ensued, from which nebulae congregated, until the Earth had a nebulous belt around it. This belt, in time losing pace with the Earth's vortex, condensed and made the Moon. But to return to the snowflake and to the needles of the physical substance whilst in etheric solutions, on a cloudy day, these solutions or needles, manifested as mist or dull atmosphere, are more or less transverse to the force lines. On a clear day, the needles are linear to the earth, and this is the reason it is a clear day. The latter direction of the needles may be called direct, and the former indirect. Where they are direct and they fall on a photoplate, the force of the energy is called actic force, and it is the same as where they fall on wet linen on a laundry. On the hanging line, in this case, the actic flow is like weak electric flame produced by each needle, hence the bleaching power and also the power to blister and expose skin, which has been kept for years in the dark, where it is subjected to negative force or neg power. If a solution of iron, transparent, or of quinate or other recipient of negative electricity be sprinkled on the cloth, the actinic ray will not result in electric spark, and no bleaching effect will be produced, and even sometimes, on the contrary, a black spot will result. Wherever the force currents falls on physical substances, is more or less damaged or dissolved, or changes its combinations. On a piece of iron, fresh broken, it produces rust. Because the force solution contained oxygen, this effect has been called oxidation. Nevertheless, in point of fact, oxygen of itself is inert. The break of its needles liberates power, which results in a minor representation of the discharge of all electric sparks from the pole of a battery. As previously stated, the force currents are to the earth in the daylight and from the earth in the night, although their force is towards the centre of the earth from the east and toward the North Pole afterwards. The following result happens. For example, a pool of water is charged during the day with the positive current. During the night, the negative current escapes upward from the water. The decomposition resulting therefrom is called slime or green scum, a mucilaginous substance which floats on the surface of the water. In some days' time, this slime, by motion from some external cause, assumes certain defined shapes, crystalline, fibrous, and otherwise, after the manner of strange configurations of frost on a window pane. In some days' time after this, if the slime is examined with a lens, it will be discovered that it is teeming with life, like miniature trees, even forests, with vines and grasses. No seed was there. This new property is called life, and because it exists everywhere, it is called omnipresent. Man can account for the slime, for the positive and negative forces, for physical substance and for ether, but life is unfathomable by man. The prehistoric slime, or green scum in early time of the earth, floats against the ground like infinitesimal trees and vines and grasses, and they take root and grow and live a season and then die. But from their roots and seeds a larger growth succeeds. Thus becomes all the world over inhabited with living creatures. Nevertheless, not one thing of them merges into another, but everyone brings forth after its own kind.